Hey ho! Ho 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 ho! I'm wearing this hat because I'm cold. I keep the house at a cooler temperature to save money on the gas bill, and I wear 2 or 3 shirts, sometimes a jacket and a blanket. Hey, gotta do that, you know? What has life come to? That's about what it's come to right now. Anyway, today's vlog, I thought about time in the past, like a year. Just take a year. Or you could take a year and then go up 5 years and up 5 years or up 10 years. So I took a year, 1964, when I was 7 years old. And then I decided, well, okay, what's going on then? What's the music like? What did I look like? And then another 10 years and another 10 years. So that's what this vlog's all about. The Beatles. The Beatles came to the United States in 1964 and appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. I watched that show. I was 7 years old. 1964, and I was 7 years old. The president was Lyndon Baines Johnson, and I was a very innocent, shy kid, learning violin and piano. The beginning of my lordosis and scoliosis was starting about this time. In a couple years, I would have to wear a back brace, a full body back brace for 3 years, which was a pain in the everything. At this time in my life, what did I want to be? I wanted to be an actor. I would sit for hours in front of a mirror and interview imaginary movie stars. I was the TV host guy that sat behind the desk. That was me. I did that every day, all the time. I have no shortage of entertaining myself, and I still don't. Movies popular at that time were Dr. Strangelove, My Fair Lady, Mary Poppins with Julie Andrews, A Shot in the Dark, and Goldfinger, the James Bond Goldfinger. TV shows popular at the time were Bewitched, Bonanza, The Fugitive, Dick Van Dyke Show, Munsters, Addams Family, Gilligan's Island, and the cartoon Jonny Quest, which was kind of an adventure. I liked watching that. 1974. I was 17, probably the best physical shape I will ever been in. And a lot of stuff was going on in my life at that time. That's our family portrait for the church directory, 1974. 1974 and I was 17. Yep, old pouty 17. I did have braces, so I didn't smile with my mouth open very much. My brother David had a little Dutch boy haircut at the time. Me and my attempt of riding a skateboard. Yeah, there's a skateboard under that big fat butt of mine. And the thing I love to do the most. Act, overact, character act. That's me, and still is. The president that year was Gerald Ford. I was a junior in high school. My boyfriend was John Mayer, not the singer, but another John Mayer. He used to imitate Groucho Marx. And I would be Margaret Dumont in our skits. I was into theater big time. That was the first time for a lot of things in my life. First time with marijuana, first time with carnal knowledge, a lot of firsts that year. 1974, the movies out were Godfather 2, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, The Towering Inferno, and The Taking of the Pelham 123, the original one. And a lot of disaster-type movies were coming out at that time. In 1974 on TV was All in the Family, MASH, Good Times, The Waltons, Happy Days, Carol Burnett Show, The Rockford Files. I nearly forgot to mention how I babysat a lot. These are Pauline Chalfont's kids. Paulette, Johnny, and, oh gosh, what was his name? Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't remember. I only babysat them once or twice. But the kids I babysat all the time are these guys. The only person not in there is Sean, Heather's brother, Heather Miller. And then the little girl in the white in front of her is Erica Dixon. Then the girl and boy is Thad and Carrie Jorgensen. And then Robbie Dixon. I love these kids. I babysat all the time. I was the go-to babysitter. But why? Because I played with the kids and I listened to the kids. I didn't just sit there and ignore them and watch what I wanted on TV. I love these kids. Now they're all grown up with kids and maybe even grandchildren of their own. 1984, I was 27. I'm not a big fan of the 80s, and there's a lot of reason why. 1984, I was 27 years old, married 3 years. Brian was a toddler, and I became pregnant with Scott that year. I worked as a denture finisher that year, and this is what I made. This has never been in anyone's mouth. It's an example of what I used to do. I made dentures. I loved that job. It was a lot of fun. I got to work with my hands. Anyway, back to this. We lived in this little dinky house in Kirkwood, Missouri. Kirkwood is a nice area, but this was 2 or 3 streets that were little ramshackle houses, hot and cold, running cockroaches and mice in the walls and that kind of thing. The roof leaked, water came down the walls, and mushroom came out of the carpets. Yeah. I think everyone needs to live in some place like that sometime in their life. The movies out that year were Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Last Starfighter, Dune, and Footloose. TV shows were The Cosby Show, Kate and Allie, Cheers, Magnum P.I. with Tom Selleck, Jeffersons, Webster, Love Boat, that kind of thing. 1994. I was 37 years old. This was just about 1994. Brian was 11, Scott was 9, I was 37. We lived in O'Fallon, Missouri. Had a lot of domestic abuse going on. I worked for the city, actually, as a code enforcement officer. I attended school for medical records, which I graduated from in 1995. Movies out that year were Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, Lion King, The Mask, Clerks, and Dumb and Dumber. And TV shows were Friends, Seinfeld, Roseanne, Simpsons, X-Files, Touched by an Angel, and Family Matters, the one with Urkel. Did I do that? 2004. I was 47 years old. Wow. 2004. Where are we? Well, I lived for 6 months in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. As I call it, the land of the sand. Here's me I was staying with an Italian guy. Here's me on the building site of the Conference Palace Hotel in Abu Dhabi, and I'm standing next to a Sikh who wears a turban, and they had to wire a hard hat to the top of his turban because it's a building regulation. February 14th, we went out in the middle of the desert in the middle of Saudi Arabia. We pitched a tent. The tent, he didn't have the poles for the tent, so we put the sleeping bags on top of the tent. But he ended up sleeping in the Jeep, and I was lying there staring at the full moon in the desert, watching dung beetles roll across. Here I am sitting on the sand. The sand is very, very, very fine. It's like powdered cinnamon. It gets into every pore in your body, even the ones where your eyelashes come out. Antique shops. They had a woman's center. That's a souk, a marketplace, and then not long after that it caught on fire. This guy, that thing on a stick right here in the middle, that's a shawarma. It's meat. It revolves around in front of a flame or a fire, and they cut it off. It's kind of like a gyro, you know. Here's me and Maurizio. It's kind of hard to see him. He's in the center there. In 2004, I was 47. In 2000, I met an Italian, Sicilian bear, Corrado Catania della Volta. And I really enjoyed him very much. I think we enjoyed each other's company quite a bit. We had kind of a fallout in a couple years, and then I started talking to Maurizio online, and he came here. I went there for vacation. He came here, and then he asked me to marry him, and since I had kind of broken up with Bear, I went over there, but the paperwork didn't go through in time, so I stayed with him for 6 months where he worked in Abu Dhabi. But we're more or less like brother and sister, and I don't think he really wanted much more than that. He wanted company, he wanted someone to be there. But there were just so many changes and challenges for me. I just couldn't handle them all. There were just so many. And he was a nice guy, and I didn't want to hurt him by being an anchor. Brian and Scott, I didn't leave them without setting up accounts to pay for the bills and everything and to make sure everything was okay. They were old enough. But I was glad to come back home, and I hooked back up with Bear again. But in 2004, George W. Bush was the president. That's when Desert Storm started. That's why I came back exactly when I did, because they said anyone that's especially American should not be here. And everybody left. I left. So I'm back here. 2004, Brian was 21, Scott 19. I was divorced since 1997. We had lived in my parents' basement for a couple years, and then this house where I am now, and I kind of bugged Mom, and the sale of my old house and all that money went through her and her lawyer and all that, so I think that went into this house. I don't really know all the details, but I believe that to be true. When I came back, I had no job. There was no job waiting for me. So I hooked back up with Bear, and we did a lot of odd jobs together. I got back in really good shape, kind of bodybuilding type stuff, and I was in good shape, and I did a lot of odd jobs, cleaning of houses, and landscaping, and organizing for people. I've done a lot of crummy, icky jobs. I helped Bear rehab a house. We did painting. We did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff. Some of the movies at the time, 2004, were Hellboy, Napoleon Dynamite, The Bourne Supremacy, Anchorman, The Terminal, The Incredibles, and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Some of the TV shows at the time were Lost, House, West Wing, Sopranos, ER, Sex and the City, and The Apprentice. I immersed myself back into community theater. Here I am with a little girl on my lap. In Carnival, I was in the chorus. There's a magic trick being performed, and there's a goldfish bowl on my head. That prop I made. And Tom Jones, I played Miss Weston. That's when I went blonde, and I've been pretty much blonde ever since. That was an interesting show. I also played, I'm on the far left here, I also was in Harvey back then. And Harvey later on, too. 2 more times. 2014. 2014, that was only like 4 years ago, so I look pretty much the same physically. Brian was in California. He's been there for a while. And Scott in Canada. He got married to Marley that year. Bear died in 2010, so he'd been gone for 4 years at that time. I still did odd jobs, and I cleaned house for people that I'd been cleaning house for years, and I still did other odd jobs. My back was hurting so bad there were some jobs I was taking care of an older woman. I just couldn't do it. She was in better shape than I was, and she was like almost 90. And another lady was she wanted to teach me how to hit a golf ball, and she was like 94. And I said, I don't think my back could handle that. And my back was going out all the time, and my hips were going out. I was just in pain all the time. And I do suffer from CPTSD. C stands for continuing post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's not due to being in war, it's due to the kind of abuse that I've had to deal with my whole life. Neglect and then abuse of many kinds. 2014 movies: Guardians of the Galaxy, Interstellar, John Wick, Unbroken, The Fault in Our Stars, Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1. And TV shows in 2014 were Game of Thrones, Mad Men, Parks and Recreation, Big Bang Theory, NCIS. Which pretty much leads us up into now, because time goes so quickly. I have lost some weight this year. And I've had many panic attacks this year. Next year, I have a shrink appointment to see if I can be diagnosed with something. Maybe I can get some help with something. I don't know. Presently, due to life circumstances, I just recently lost one of my brothers. He died of cancer. My mom's in a nursing home and she's miserable. She tells you that between asking for pain medicine every 2 minutes. And I have to declutter and clean all this stuff here at this house and at my mother's house. I spent 20 minutes at Mom's yesterday and got 2 trash cans absolutely crammed full of stuff, and it doesn't look like I put a dent in the place. Now here, I have thrown a lot of stuff away, and there's stuff in the garage to be thrown away and organize and try to deal with stuff, but yeah. I don't know. That's where everything is right now. That's kind of been how it was. Here's a chart of prices of stuff through the years. I'll go over this with you. 1964, I was 7. Postage stamps were 5 cents. A gallon of milk, 94 cents. A dozen of eggs, 54 cents. A gallon of gas or petrol was 30 cents. An average price of a car is $3,000. An average price of a home was $20,500. In 1974, when I was 17, postage stamps were 10 cents. A gallon of milk was $1.39. A dozen eggs were 78 cents. A gallon of gas was 53 cents a gallon. An average car cost $3,500 and an average home cost $60,000. In 1984, I was 27. Postage stamps cost 20 cents. A gallon of milk, $2.20 a gallon. A dozen eggs, $1. A gallon of gas, $1.13 a gallon. This is average cost, people. An average cost of an average car was $11,300. An average cost of a home was $127,000. In 1994, when I was 37, a postage stamp was 29 cents, a gallon of milk $2.88, a dozen of eggs 87 cents, a gallon of gas was $1.11 a gallon, a car average cost was $17,500, average cost of a home was $129,000. In 2004, when I was 47, a postage stamp cost 37 cents, a gallon of milk $3.73, dozen eggs $1.25, a gallon of gas $1.73 a gallon, average car cost $22,000, average home cost $230,000, sorry. In 2014, and I was 57, postage stamp cost 49 cents, a gallon of milk $3.85, a dozen eggs $2, and a gallon of gasoline was $2.42 average, car $32,500, and a home $280,000 on average. So, that's kind of how things went. Sorry it took so long to put this up and it was boring, I know. At least you got to see my big fat butt when I was 17. Now I just had big hips, big thighs, powerful legs. My legs always have been stronger than my upper part. Always have. They say however you spend your New Year's, pretty much how you're going to spend the whole year. Maybe if I'm around some jovial people, or at least the cat, right? Not be totally alone. I've got Toby. Upward and onward.